Hey Rockstar, Steve aka Void here. Welcome to another episode of Dear VØIDy. Yes, I love that new intro. Sweet. So, welcome to today's show. Dear VØIDy is a show where I help you by answering your burning questions about playing, writing, teaching songs on guitar. Anything goes on this show. Welcome. Let me know that you're in the comments, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching. Let me know that you're watching here. Dear VØIDy is a show that I'm probably going to be broadcasting more often just because I get a lot of questions and it's a lot of fun to answer them. So, yeah, let me know. And also, if you have any questions live over here, some people have pre-submitted some questions. This is just like, as you may have guessed, Dear Abby. So it's only, but it's music related. And so you can ask me literally anything that you want, and I will give you the best answer that I possibly can. So let's jump right into it. Again, if you're watching live, then drop a comment. If you're watching the replay, then also drop a comment because I read those as well. So let's get over to my screen. Hopefully you can see this here. Yep. Okay, that should work. So let's get to the first question here. So, Dear VØIDy, I have more than one question. Okay, so question one. Trying to memorize the notes of the neck. First, I'll read all of them over here, just so I understand all of it. So, trying to memorize the notes of the neck. Trying to know about chords and what strings to play and fret numbers. The question three, the best way of holding and strumming with a pick. Okay, so cool. Let's get to question one here. So, we have. Oh, and yeah, if you're watching from my Facebook group, then maybe just drop also your name, just because I can't see it just as Facebook user. But or stay anonymous. It's totally cool as well. So, all right. So, trying to memorize the notes on the neck. That's the first thing here. So, memorizing the notes on the neck. This is a question I get a lot. Now, this is, I think that John, I'm guessing John is a beginner. With this question here, the first thing I would ask is, okay, so why? Why do you want to memorize the notes on the neck? A lot of times on guitar, we have sort of like preconceived notions of what we should be doing, or maybe we heard an expert talk about, first you need to do this, or yeah, you need to, like even randomly, oh, you need to memorize notes on the neck of the guitar. So that's something that might not even be grounded in anything that you want to do. Like it might not be the basis for what you actually want to accomplish. So I would actually first ask, like, why would you want to memorize? Like, why do you need to memorize the notes? Now, I'm not saying that don't do it, but there's a few things that come into play here. Number one is, again, why do you want to do it? Is it for a specific reason that a certain thing you want to accomplish? Another thing is, do you know how to play any songs? Okay, are there any songs that you already can play? Because if you can't play any songs on guitar yet, then 100% I wouldn't spend time memorizing notes on the neck. There's just no point, because the answers are given to you in tabs or videos or chord diagrams. The answers of what to play are right there. And so you don't need to memorize the notes. You don't need to memorize the different locations before you could play. Like a very common reference example that I make is, my daughter, okay, so my kids are 4.5 and 2.5 years old. I have two twin boys, 2.5, and a daughter who's 4.5. And they were speaking, even right now, they're still speaking. Like my daughter's learning how to read a little bit, but they're speaking, they're communicating their ideas, they're speaking the English language, but not knowing how to do anything like else besides, I guess, yes, now they've memorized the alphabet, but they could speak way before they knew A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like they could speak way before all that. As a guitar player, it's really, really important at first that you're able to play some songs. That's at least what I believe. You got to play songs first, and I'd say at least 5 songs before you start diving into this kind of thing where you're memorizing notes. But always, even like, you're not just going to memorize the notes just for the sake of memorizing notes. Always have a purpose. Always, like, I'm memorizing notes because of this reason. I need to be able to, I don't know, like I want to know how to name all of the bar chords on the 6th string or something like that. Like there's just got to be a reason why you're memorizing the notes, not just because you heard that might be a good idea. That's my take there. And then as far as memorizing the notes, I would start off, if you were going to memorize them, start with 1 string at a time. So with the 6th string, you get 2 for the price of 1, because that's the same notes on the 1st string. But I would just start off with like being able to name the notes on the 6th string, so E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, like all the way up to the 12th fret, if you were going to do that. But first and foremost, the prerequisite is at least 5 songs. Be able to play music first. We're a guitar player, okay? You're not a guitar memorizer, you're not a guitar practicer, you're a guitar player. Question 2, trying to know about chords and what strings to play and fret numbers. Trying to know about chords and what strings to play and fret numbers. I'm guessing what this means is trying to know like where chords start, and like on what strings to play in each chord. So if that's the case, yeah, so like I would pick, again, I'd go back to always like what songs do you love, and we're usually either going to be playing like power chords or super glue chords. I'd be playing a simple kind of chord to get some songs down. Again, like in the beginning, you don't necessarily have to know too much about what you're doing, just the fact that you can just play some stuff. Like if someone heard you playing guitar, they don't know or care if you can memorize the notes or if you know exactly what amount of strings you need to play for each chord. Like you're playing a song, and usually that's enough for about 5 songs, I would say, before you start diving into this stuff. Now for chords and like what strings to play in each of the chords, that's just, I guess, figuring out the starting point. But I would pick like 3 chords, 4 chords max, that are in a song that you want to play. Let's say it's G, C, and D, and I would just play G, C, and D and just get comfortable with G, C, and D. So G would have 6 strings typically. You'd be playing for G. Then usually I would show the super glue C chord. So you'd have this one would be 5 strings, but even if you accidentally hit, who cares if you hit the 6th string? It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter if you hit the 6th string. And then let's just say a super glue D or a regular D chord. Okay? Even if you're hitting the 6th string, it doesn't matter at first. The main thing is that you actually prioritize timing, your musical timing. That's the most important thing that we've got to focus on as a guitar player. Okay, that's actually not even going to change later down the line, but we got to start with that. Okay, and then also the best way of holding and strumming with a pick. So typically what I do, and let me just make sure that I've got, here we go. So typically what I do is I think of it as, okay, so the thumb is parallel to the string, okay, and the pick is perpendicular. Like, so we've got to make sure that the pick is, you know, here's the string and it's striking through. So I always end up with this kind of formation where the triangle, whether the triangle is a bit smaller or it's a bit larger like that. We have the index and the thumb are typically, I don't really like this. That has never really worked for me because it puts the wrist in a weird position. I like to have the wrist flush. Okay, I like to have the thumb and the index finger holding the pick, not too tight, just enough so that it's not falling out. And you also want to give a little bit of leeway. There's got to be some flexibility to the pick. So I would say choke up on the pick a bit, but not to where you're like super like squeezing it. You know, you'd be just enough so that you're holding it firmly, and just start seeing what that's like just kind of like a pendulum swing where, let's see if we get a better view over here. Yeah, so see how like it's perpendicular, okay, but it's not like super tight where, you know, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that it's nice and relaxed. Okay, and we're just letting the pick do a lot of the work. Okay, we're just gliding through the strings, just brushing through, sweeping through. Now it's going to change from song to song, but at least as a starting point, that's where we want to be. Again, like whether we choke up or whether we have a smaller pick, let's say, that forces us to show only a little bit, it's always still this this position of the index finger, this first joint here, and the thumb like that. You don't have to have your fingers tight like that. You don't have to have them out like that. Just nice and relaxed. Okay, and just you grab the pick, and that's also pretty relaxed as well. Okay, but again, that triangle is what you're looking for. That's like, so see how the thumb there would be like the bottom line of the triangle, and that way when you turn it and you're playing and your thumb is parallel to the strings, the pick is obviously perpendicular. Okay, so let's get back to the screen over here. And Dear VØIDy, I can't make it through a whole song without making mistakes. What can I do? Mike. Okay, so Mike, so you can't make it through a whole song without making mistakes. Now that is super common, like way more common than you think. And honestly, I don't think there's ever been a performance that I don't think I've ever not made a mistake like at all. The difference, and what I mean, sorry, is when I'm like performing live, I think there's always been a mistake at some point. It's just whether or not like how is it a minor mistake? Like, is it just like a little thing that's negligible? Like, if the mistake is huge, there was like a few mistakes that are just catastrophic in that, at least in my mind they were. But you want to be able to recover quickly. Like, that's the main thing, is like mistakes are going to happen, but the skill that you actually want to develop, instead of like trying to eliminate mistakes completely and kind of stress out about that, or practice like crazy to eliminate mistakes completely, getting really good at mistake recovery, that's actually, it's easier, and it's also just way better. Just if you knew that you were invincible, basically, that you could make any mistake and you could recover right away. So what that would involve is being able to pick up right where the song is at, not where you left off, but right where the song is at and where it's supposed to be. So if you made a mistake playing a chord, or a certain riff, then you're picking up where the song should be, because everybody that's listening to that song, there's a certain pulse that's happening and a timeline. And I call it the train has left the station. Like, when you make a mistake, you fall off that train keeps going, and if you just try to fix your own mistake, that train is long gone. So what you want to do is you want to just jump right back on the train wherever the train is at, and play those notes. And so yeah, like, nice, done, welcome, buddy. Play through it. Don't let anyone know. Like, that's the other thing too, is you don't make it obvious. If you're performing, you don't make it obvious you made a mistake. Obviously, you have to be comfortable with the idea of making mistakes. A lot of people aren't. A lot of people's inner perfectionists just go crazy and they get pissed off. You know, whether it's swearing, or whether it's just looking pissed off for the rest of the song, or whether it is letting it just eat you up inside, and you make more mistakes. Like, one mistake will lead to the next mistake. What's really interesting is sometimes a song will be going really well, and you might be thinking like, oh, this is going a little too well. Like, you're looking for the mistake. At least I was. Like, a big part, before I started getting more comfortable with mistakes, my inner perfectionist would get the best of me. And it's not just that, like, it would sabotage things where I'd make a mistake and then I'd be like, oh man, that sucks, and then it would make more mistakes. It's also, even when things are going really well, the inner perfectionist would turn on and say, oh, this is going a little too well. I think that there's probably going to be a mistake coming up, or there's no way I can make through the song without making a mistake. And then there's the mistake, splat, like, there it goes. So I would say, because this is just, the question's the question. I can't make it through a whole song without making mistakes. This is like, I don't know enough about what's going on to fully comment on how to fix it. But I would say, just in general, if the inner perfectionist is going crazy and making more mistakes, then definitely we want to look at getting more comfortable with that. Now, this is something that I talk about a lot in my Peak Performer program, about, we have the mistake eraser and achieving mistake immunity. And it's like, and a big part of that is quick mistake recovery. Like, it's so fast that the audience doesn't notice or care. It's if you stopped, or if you were super pissed off and like ruin the rest of the performance. Like, obviously, like, everyone would care about that. So I'm gonna leave it at that. But I would say, yeah, like, typically this is gonna be, we want to have a good practice system. The fast practice formula that I demonstrate inside my book, Practice Less, Play More, is really good for programming good muscle memory. Like, if you follow that, then that'll be really good for programming really solid muscle memory. But for mistakes, because mistakes do happen, then you also want to have a really good mistake recovery. And that combination of the two is going to be, I think, really powerful. There's a little more to it that you could do, but let's just start with that. All right, cool. And okay, so Martin asks, so Dear VØIDy, there's a pub down the street that does an open mic every Thursday night. What level do I need to be at to join? All right, this is a great question, because this is where we have kind of like, I don't want to say like limiting beliefs, but definitely it's something where I think there's a stigma attached to, like, you have to be at a certain level to even enter the equation of, like, playing on stage or performing for other people. And really, you don't. I mean, what would a kid do? A kid would grab the guitar and, like, just start playing and, like, dancing around or whatever. No inhibitions or anything like that. And I'd recommend, you don't have to do that, but I would say start now. Like, every Thursday night, well, today I'm broadcasting this on Wednesday, I would go visit tomorrow night, like, ASAP. So I would go there and at least feel it out. And if you know how to play a song, I would play it as soon as possible, because I look at performance as a great way to show you exactly where you're at in the song and on guitar. Like, it's brutally honest. And so if you record that performance, then you can literally gauge where you're at. Because if you made a mistake in the verse, then most likely, if you made a mistake in the verse while you're performing, that verse, you're not as familiar with the verse as you can be. So the performance exposed that in a great way, and then that's all you need to practice. Like, that's literally, it's showing you what you need to practice in your next session. And then you go back to the open mic and you could test that song again and see where you're at. And that's usually how you'll gauge kind of the level that you're at. But yeah, I think you should perform ASAP. I think that if you need to do anything, so a lot of people will do karaoke to kind of like get into it. But I don't know, Martin, what you play, like if you play guitar or you play another instrument. But yeah, that's what I would do, is I would perform as soon as possible, even if it's karaoke. Even if it's part of a song, you're in complete control. You can play an intro, a verse, chorus, and then last drum out. Like, that's it. You don't even play the full song. So I would say perform as soon as possible. Again, obviously, if you need any help with that, I would definitely have a look at my Peak Performer program, which is going to help you with all that stuff. Like, I think performance is the most important thing that you can do as a player. Like, just again, to gauge where you're at, to share music with other people, to level up, to have fun. All those things. There's so many benefits. But yeah, what level do I need to be at? There's not going to be like one day you graduate and then, okay, cool, now you're going to be allowed to play. Like, I think you should play as soon as possible, especially if you're interested in it. Cool. So those are all the questions that we had that were pre-submitted, at least the ones that were chosen here, because sometimes there's overlap with some of the questions. They're the same topic. By the way, if you need to ask any questions via email, then email void@rockstarmind.com. with the subject line "Dear VØIDy," and then we'll pop those into. We have like a backlog of those that we'll put onto the next episode. But yeah, if you have any questions, even if you're watching if you're watching this on the replay, then definitely you can feel free to ask questions in the comments, and either I'll reply back in the comments, or I'll save them for the best questions will make it to the next episode. But yeah, if I'll wait around just for a few seconds here. If anybody else has any questions, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're watching on Facebook, if you have any questions, then definitely I'd recommend taking advantage of the opportunity to get some expert help. So we'll say going once, going twice, and cool, sold. All right, cool. Well, that is today's episode of Dear VØIDy. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Again, if you are watching the replay, then ask questions. I mean, the best way to learn and to gain insight and possibly shave off like months and months of struggle off of the equation here, off of your journey on guitar, is to ask questions. Someone who's been there and someone who knows what's up. So I'm going to try to broadcast more episodes of Dear VØIDy soon. And hopefully you just, some people might like not feel comfortable asking a question, and that's totally cool. But hopefully that will show everyone that, like it's totally cool to ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Everything is fair game. So thank you so much for watching. We're going to go back to that killer intro. Well, this is going to be the outro that I put together just before this, just deadline dancing a little bit here. So I'm glad that it all works. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll chat soon. Take care.